I am well acquainted with anxiety. There's a guy called David Lenson who, for me, defined anxiety better than anyone I've ever come across. And he said anxiety is basically temporal dislocation. What this means, essentially, is that some early trauma, some formative fear, some disquiet that happened at a vulnerable age has become stuck in your system. It is undigested trauma. And so that past experience is now brought to the doorstep of every moment. You meet every moment not with curiosity, but with a prism of expectations, fears, and resignations. You leapfrog from what's happening directly to the conclusions, and the conclusions are negatively parsed. Anxiety is a proneness to negative emotion. So back to David Lenson. Anxiety is temporal dislocation. The past experience makes you overdetermine the present, overdetermine it, right? Misjudge it. Overdetermine what's happening and conjure up immediately in mind, fill the contents of mind with dread, right? Conjure up a future that becomes identified with the end of days, at least for you. Everything goes catastrophic. Todo es catastrófico en la mente del ansioso. I know this feeling well. The media insidiously feeds back into this loop of misappropriating the present, right? Overdetermining it and conjuring up a future identified with doom. Because the media, right, follows the basic protocol that if it bleeds, it leads. More coverage is given to disaster, to explosion, to disease, to death, to chaos, to catastrophe, than to everything else, which warps then our perception about the state of things through constant exposure to the doom and gloom broadcasts saturating the body mind and seeding the contents of consciousness, so that eventually our mentation, our experience of ourselves and of the world, again, is parsed negatively. You watch the news for too long, you come to think you are actually in danger of a terrorist attack. So much more often than you would ever be. The chances of actually dying in a terrorist attack are something like less likely than you falling and dying in the shower. But it saturates our brains, right? You board an airplane or a train or you're in a public venue. I certainly feel this. I'm like, oh my God, I hope somebody doesn't blow themselves up in this place. When the statistics say otherwise. So here we are. The past fear or trauma, the past programming, overdetermining the present, conjuring up a future that becomes identified with doom, temporal dislocation, no longer properly assessing what's happening, and instead the whole world caves in, you cloud, your cognition clouds, and now you're like in a viscerally anxious state. Hypochondriasis is no different. Something I can also relate to, right? I just went swimming in a beautiful river, free floating, foaming water in a UNESCO heritage site. I am in heaven on earth. And yet, you know what I brought to the doorstep of that moment? I was like, oh my God, do I have any opening wounds? Oh my God, is there the flesh-eating bacteria in the water? Because I read this story on CNN about this woman, and she had like an open cut on her leg, and she went swimming in the lake, and then some bacteria got in there, and 2 days later they had to amputate her because she had some Necrotis fasciitis flesh-eating bacteria that ate her leg. And I literally was scared to go swimming in this beautiful flowing river because of that article. And yet, how many people per year, how many millions of people per year go swimming in rivers? And what is the percentage of those people that actually get some flesh-eating bacteria? But again, the past trauma, the misreading is brought to the doorstep of every moment. Anxiety clouds our judgment. Our compulsion to make ourselves feel safe constrains our freedom in the moment, robbing us of all the joy of living and turning us into neurotic, incessantly looping neurotic case studies in fibrillating anxiousness, what Jamie Wheel calls the 21st century normals. What a fucking bummer human default condition. Perpetually future-focused, negatively parsing said future, always afraid, numbing the angst with Xanax, the United States of Xanax. Fuck! How do we free ourselves from such a burden? How do we actually practically, proactively keep ourselves safe, because you don't want to be reckless, but find ways of mitigating against the uselessness, constriction, and violation of our bliss by our fucking goddamn anxiousness? I am so fucking tired of my fear. I am so fucking tired of being afraid. I am so fucking tired of the rigidity that robs me of my desire to fucking dance and sing with the fucking fireflies. It is said that one way to cure trauma is with an equally powerful experience tinged with positivity. Rather than PTSD, they call it inverse PTSD. Roland Griffiths from Johns Hopkins University coined the term to describe what happens when people have healthy containers for mystical experiences in which they are able to move beyond their lenses of perception, have an encounter with an experience of knowledge by acquaintance that everything is fine, that you will be all right, and that those lenses of perception tinged with fear are no longer serving you. You can dispense with them. There is another place to plant our feet, and therein lies the Holy Land, the healing of our fractures. The dance with the beyond, the bliss fuck crucifixion, the death and resurrection, the art, the lie that reveals the truth, the fiction that is more truthful than reality, the timeless place beyond death and beyond fear, the cosmological giggle at the end of time, staring at the iris of your lover's eye when you went to God just to see and you were looking at me and it was all set to a pop song, and how fucking awesome is that happy ending, that happily ever after, that consummation, that consecration, that communion with the feeling felt in pregnancy that everything is gonna be okay. So don't worry about a thing, because every little thing is gonna be all right. Rise up this morning, smile at the rising sun. 3 little birds beside my doorstep, singing sweet songs. A melody is pure and true. This is my message to you. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. I promise.